Hello. This is the October 9th, 2018 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Call to order at 7:01 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Do the roll call. Mr. Soda?
Here.
Ms. Ferrante?
Here.
Mr. Hirsch?
Here.
Ms. Valakut?
Here.
Mr. Dubois?
Here.
And Mr. Chizola could not be with us tonight.
Also present tonight is Meg Green, our recording secretary, and Stephen Harris, the zoning enforcement officer. And we have Mr. Hirsch stepping in as secretary. And if anyone has a conflict of interest on this board, please speak now. All right, Ms. Valakut will be recusing herself from item number 1. And go ahead.
Number 1, 10 Seaview Avenue, MBP 9/79/2, R10. John Bennett, agent for Stephen Valakut, owner. Vary section 3-3.1.4.1. Side yard setback to 8 feet 4 inches where 10 feet is required. 6.3.2 expansion of a non-conforming structure to construct garage and second floor addition.
Evening. Hi, I'm John Bennett. I'm representing the Valakuts about the setback issue.
Sir, can you bring the mic a little closer? And please state your address for the record.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Bring the mic a little bit closer and state your address for the record, please. Your address?
712 East Broadway, Milford, Connecticut. The address for the job, 10 Seaview Avenue.
Great, go ahead.
All right, well, we're applying for the variance for the setback from 10 feet to 8.4, I believe. Based on the knowledge that we have that the house was built in the 30s, back then there was not a setback issue for the non-conforming structure. All we're asking for is to use the existing setback lines for the new addition. We're not going beyond the existing lines, which is, I believe, pretty common in Milford.
So the addition is not going any further forward than where the porch already exists? That's what
For
it
the
looks like
variance,
here.
we're not going past the existing lines of the structure that
Okay,
at the time.
okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
So in other words, will you be changing the footprint of the current area of the property?
No. Not on the variance issue. We're going forward with the structure, but we're not asking for a variance for the forward setback, just the side.
Is there anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Anyone opposed? No? Okay. This hearing is closed.
Thank you.
What do you think?
I don't have a problem with it. They're staying within the existing setback, so.
Right, I'm fine with that.
Make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Approval is based on the small size of the lot.
Okay. Mr. Soda?
With the motion.
Mr. Dubois?
With the motion.
Mr. Hirsch?
With the motion.
And I'm with the motion. Carries.
All right, we're all set. Thank you.
Item number 2, 183 Point Beach Drive, MBP 30/613/38R 7.5, George Germano, owner, vary section 3.1.4.1, front yard setback to 14 feet 5 inches where 21 feet required, 4.1.4 project to 8 feet where 16 feet permitted, 6.3.2 expansion of a non-conforming structure.
Good evening. My name is Ray Oliver, architect with offices at 3 Lafayette Street. Excuse me, 3 Lafayette Street. I'm here representing George and Barbara Germano, who have purchased the house at 183 Point Beach Avenue. It's an existing house. The scope of the work that we're contemplating is to add a partial second story, to add a garage, a single-family garage to the existing single-family garage, and to extend the stoop entryway somewhat. You all have the plans there. You can see that the proposed variance is pretty de minimis. Where 20 feet is required, the new garage will be 14 feet, but it brings it in line with the existing house structure. The present stoop is similarly located as the proposed stoop, but the proposed stoop is slightly wider, so that that extends into the setback, so that the setback for the stoop is about 8 feet, where 16 feet is required. I think it'll be a handsome addition to the neighborhood to improve the house. It'll provide additional parking with the garage, and the house will now meet all the flood hazard regulations, which presently it doesn't comply with. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer. And the owner is here, George Germano. Pardon me?
What is the current projection of the stoop and what is the proposed projection?
The current projection is probably 6 feet, and the new projection is 8 feet. So it's just steps, basically.
Any other questions?
My only question is, what's the hardship?
The hardship is a non-conforming structure that was built prior to the zoning that was imposed later on.
Is there anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Anyone opposed? Okay, this hearing is closed.
Thank you.
Well, I think this one's pretty similar to what we just approved, making it flush with the structure that's already existing.
I agree with that also. It's going to get cars off the road by adding a garage, or at least expanding a garage.
I don't see a problem with it. It's basically the same thing we just approved. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Approval is based on the hardship of the non-conforming lot.
Mr. Soto?
Madam Chairman,
With the motion.
What's that?
never mind.
Okay. Mr. Dubois?
With the motion.
Ms. Valiquette?
With the motion.
Mr. Hirsch?
With the motion.
And I'm with the motion. Carries.
Item number 3, 43 Erna Avenue, MBP 433-304-41, CDD1. Thomas Lynch Esquire for Gabor Penyizi, owner. Vary section 5.1.4.16, parking requirement from 21 spaces to 2 to establish a dog daycare center.
The dog is very important in that description.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Just for the record, my name is Thomas Lynch. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Lynch, Trimbicki, and Boynton, and my office is located here in Milford at 63 Cherry Street. And I'm here tonight representing my client, Melissa Martyr, who just crept up and pulled my jacket to let me know that she just showed up. She's also here with Josh Miller, who has been working with her on the design of doing the fit-up of this building. And the property is located at 43 Erna Avenue in the industrial section off of the Boston Post Road. It's actually just south of the Beard property where the current proposed city police station is going in, and the other development that MetroStar is doing along that site. And we're before you tonight with a request to vary Section 514 of the zoning regulations as it relates to the parking requirements. Just a little bit of background. Melissa currently has her business at 100 Gulf Street here in Milford. It's just past St. Mary's Church before the overpass. It's a building that she was renting from Angelo Lisi. Mr. Lisi sold the building last year, so she has to relocate. And she has signed a lease for this property. The building is some 15,000 square feet, and half of it is being currently used by an appliance warehouse concern who basically warehouses appliances for distribution to local appliance dealers, and the other half is empty. We've presented in our application to you a site plan that was prepared by Scott Monday here in Milford, and basically the third page shows what's going on. There will be a dividing wall that's going to be constructed roughly right down the middle of the building and some 15,000 square feet, and Melissa has signed a lease for roughly 7,500 square feet in the building. If you're familiar with her operation now on Gulf Street, there's a large dog run outside. The majority of that is going to be brought inside in this facility. So there's a very small area of the rented space that's going to be utilized for her offices. She only has 3 employees that work on site at any given time. So our parking regulations are set up so that you have to have so many square feet, so many parking spaces per square feet of a particular use. And basically in terms of having this reviewed by David Sulkus prior to the next step, because we're before you tonight with a variance request, and hopefully if this is granted, we then have to go on to the Planning and Zoning Board for site plan review, as well as a special exception. Because in the CDD1 zone, there's no specific reference to a doggy daycare facility in the enumerated permitted uses or special uses. So in that case where a use is not specifically set forth, we actually have to apply for a special exception. So in David's review of the site plan, he said that it can't go on to the Planning and Zoning Board without a zoning conforming site plan. And that's why we're before you tonight, because if you've been on the site or you saw what we've presented to you in this application, this building was built in 1950. It encompasses virtually the entire parcel. The property is about 1/2 acre in size, and when this was built in 1950, God only knows what the parking regulations were or if there were any actual delineations for specific counts per use. In this case, we've calculated that based on the warehouse use, there would be 21 spaces that would be required. We have 2 spaces that are provided basically in front of the loading dock area off of Honey Street. The other appliance user has 2 or 3 spaces that are on the Erna Avenue side coming in front of the loading dock there. So basically, if you go by a strict reading of the zoning table, this building is supposed to have 21 parking spaces, and literally there's only 4 or 5 that are on site. That creates the obvious hardship. no matter what use would go into this building, there's not enough parking for it. And traditionally, what has transpired is that people park on Erna Avenue or on Honey Street. You know, it's city, improved city highways. There's no parking restrictions on those streets. So we believe that the 2 spaces that are provided for Melissa to use would be sufficient for 2 of her employees and 1 other employee parking on Honey Street. And individuals bringing their dogs in on a daily basis to drop them off, that's exactly what it would be. It would just be a drop-off. There's no requirement for any long-term parking for people utilizing the building. Anybody either dropping off or picking up their dog at the end of the day could either park in those 2 spaces if one is available, or park right in front of the building on Honey Street, go in, retrieve your dog, and get back in the car and drive away. So that's why we're here tonight. There has been some changes. There's been discussions amongst the regulations subcommittee of the Planning and Zoning Board to change the zoning regulations as they relate to parking, because there is a provision in the regulations that basically gives discretion to the Planning and Zoning Board to waive their regulations in situations that they may see fit on a case-by-case basis. But not to bore you with this, but there's been recent Connecticut cases that have held that the Planning and Zoning Board does not have the right to waive their own regulations. So as a result of that, I believe there's some input from the City Attorney's Office that has led to the board to amend or change that catch-all regulation that allows discretion. So I dare say that you may see more of these applications coming to you when people are looking for special permits or site plan approval from the Planning and Zoning Board, and the first instance will be that we'll need to come before the board if, in fact, it's a situation where the parking count can't be met. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
What have been the parking needs at the current location on Gulf Street? Is there like a rush hour for drop-off and pickup, or is it staggered?
No, that's a great question. Again, same number of employees, just 2, so the actual on-site parking of 2 or 3 spaces. Over there, she has a larger lot, but it's basically people coming in, dropping off the dogs, and leaving. On this site, that would take place on Honey Street.
Tom, how many parking spaces are there currently on the property?
There's just the 2 here, and then there's 2 on Erna Avenue in front of the appliance place. If you went on Vision Appraisal and you looked at the picture of the building on Vision Appraisal, and I wish I had brought it with me, actually is looking at the building from Erna Avenue, and you can see that there's a loading dock there with an area wide enough for 2 cars to park there.
What I mean is there isn't 21 spaces there currently.
Correct. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no new construction being done on this property. I mean, she's just fitting up the inside. So what's been there since 1950, that's it. I mean, that's the only parking that's available.
Attorney Lynch, you said that they're going to be parking on Erna Avenue to drop off dogs?
Yes.
Can't they park on Honey Street?
Well, they could do that. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I thought I said Honey
Oh, I
Street.
thought you said Erna.
No, no, no.
Okay, Honey,
No,
okay.
No.
So Honey Street's wide
Oh, yeah.
enough to park on? Okay.
Absolutely. That's,
All right.
they'll
I
come
didn't know
up.
if it was a narrow street and you couldn't
No,
park on it.
I'm sorry if I misspoke. No, the drop-off and pick-off will be on Honey Street.
What's across the street on Honey Street? Is there a building there? Who would be impacted?
It's an industrial building by Overhead Garage, and they have a large parking lot that nobody uses. Yeah.
You said that there's a lot of outdoor space right now on Gulf Street for the dogs, and a lot of that activity is going to be moving inside. But
Yes.
and that this property on Erna is taking up most of the lot. So what kind of space is there outside for the dogs, and what are the outside needs? And is there any chance that the 2 or 3 parking spaces that do exist are going to remain parking and won't be used up with other activities?
No, they will remain as parking. They won't be utilized. And if you look on the northeasterly side of the building, that's going to be That much smaller area will be outdoor dog run for dogs to get outside and get some air. But now, all of her dog run on Gulf Street is outside, which has created some noise problems for some neighbors, one of which is your chairman, who's not here tonight.
He'll be glad it's moving.
I figured he'd be here tonight, he'd be the first one to raise his hand and say, approved.
One last question. I assume that because right now, when she gets in there, it's going to be her and an appliance business? I assume the appliance business has no problem with this?
Oh, no, and their spaces are over around
Yeah.
the corner on Erna Avenue.
Oh, so it doesn't affect them at all either?
No, not at all.
Any other questions?
And Eaton, just so you know, that's like a warehouse facility, so I don't even know if they have full-time employees in that building. Yeah. It's a warehouse storage facility.
All right, anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Come on up. Okay. All right. Anyone opposed? All right, this hearing is closed.
Thanks.
Any thoughts?
I don't see a problem with it. I mean, there's very little land with the building that's almost, you know, the percentage of lot coverage is very high.
Yeah, it's not like we're taking a space that has 21 spaces and converting it to 4. It already has 4.
Right, they're not going to be adding on to the size of the building and the structure, just converting the inside.
That's all they're doing.
Space,
So
yeah.
the effect is only going to be on the interior, not the exterior.
Yeah, and I went over there, and I didn't notice any parking restrictions in the neighborhood, as Attorney Lynch said, so there is plenty of on-street parking. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Approval is based on the small size of the lot and the large size of the building.
We have a motion to approve. Mr. Dubois,
With the motion?
Ms. Valaket,
With the motion?
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Soto.
With the motion.
I'm with the motion. Passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we are on to old business. No old business. No new business. No staff updates? None? Okay. We need an acceptance of the minutes from the September meeting.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and do we have any applications for next month? No?
No, not yet.
Okay,
So we're gonna have a month off, huh?
possibly, okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Aye, meeting adjourned.